All right, guys, welcome back to the next podcast. I've been excited for this one for a couple of weeks. It's one of my personal friends, coaches, mentors, and he was a mentor before he even knew he was a mentor. I followed him very closely for 3 to 4 years, and then finally just started connect with him over the last year and a half, 2 years. Talked to him on a monthly, bi-monthly basis, and he's helped me a lot throughout the years. He's a world-renowned door-to-door guy. We can talk a lot about that. He's an author of Door-to-Door Millionaire and more Door-to-Door Millionaire. Got 2 good books, so I highly recommend that you guys jump on there and download those or get the book off Amazon or wherever Lenny wants you to get it. And again, thanks for being here, Lenny. I'm super excited to have you, and thanks for being here.
Appreciate it, Jonas. Love the opportunity to come and chat about my background and hopefully help your listeners to get a better understanding of door-to-door direct sales or whatever else you want to chat about, pest control, anything. So.
For sure. So why don't you just tell us your personal story first, and then we'll kind of just take it from there. Like, how did you get into the industry? How did you start your company? Start there.
Yeah, appreciate that. So I started, like most guys in Utah, I started with a company that was a marketing company that did door-to-door. I was recruited by a buddy of mine, played high school football with him, and actually, he came, initially to get me to do it. And I didn't believe him that you could actually make the kind of money that he was telling me he could make. You can make 30 grand in the summer or something like that. And man, I came from nothing, like a lot of us in this world. My dad was a police officer. My mom owned a small little house cleaning company, and he was trying to tell me that I could make as much in a summer that they maybe made in a year, and I just didn't believe it. So I said, but I trusted this guy. But I said, hey, why don't you go do it? And if it's real, then let me know, and I'll come do it with you next year. And sure enough, he let me know at the end of the summer. He said, hey, man, I did. I made like 25 grand. I'm hiring a team for next year. We're going to go to Birmingham, Alabama, and I want you to come join us. So that's kind of how my story started. I did that during my undergrad. Once I finished my undergrad, I got hired by a company that was a marketing company for Orkin Pest Control, and worked for them for a couple years. Met a good dude who knew pest control. I didn't know anything about pest control. I was just selling it. Hadn't really serviced a home or anything like that. But this guy knew the day-to-day, the operational side of it. So tag teamed with him. We started a company in Salt Lake City, and in about 5 years, we were the biggest residential company in the state. The first summer it was me selling, him spraying, and that was kind of how we did it. And in the interim, with running Utah, we opened up several other offices in different states, and we were acquired in Utah back in I think 2007, and we grew a bunch in the Midwest. We had an acquisition in 2014 with 6 or 7 branches, and now we're back up to about 5 or 6 branches, and just building again, just growing and building and doing the pest control thing. So that's a little nutshell of my story.
And it's Rove Pest Control, ROVE, right?
Yeah, Rove Pest Control. We named it after there's a scavenger beetle called the Rove beetle. It's not really prevalent in the U.S., but it's a beetle that kills and eats other bugs. So funny enough, my business partner and I, we were doing a humanitarian trip in Kenya. And we were literally brushing our teeth one morning, kind of in our outdoor, and we'd already established the company. It was already Rove, but we were brushing our teeth one morning in kind of this outdoor, I guess you could call it like a sink. It was kind of an interesting type of a sink. But anyway, this Rove beetle goes trooping through the sink, like kind of in between us, and kind of cruised out. And we were like, oh my gosh, like I guess we named our company the right thing. So yeah, Rove Pest Control. That's been our company.
That's awesome. First question I'm going to ask you. I think you get asked this a lot probably, but is door-to-door dead?
Oh, it's totally dead. I'd never do it. No, of course not. No. The direct selling game, it's funny because a lot of people say, I just got off a call with a guy that, can get into it later, but he's got an idea. I get that across my desk quite a bit, ideas for doing direct sales. And he knew he had this call set up with me last week. And this weekend he had a door-to-door solar guy hit him up. And this guy lives in Puerto Rico, right? So he's like out of nowhere. And so he's like, this guy, I've never had my door knocked. I was, going to meet with Lenny Gray, the door-to-door millionaire. And then this guy comes knocking on my door. And he said, he asked him, he says, do you know Lenny Gray? And oh yeah, no, of course I know Lenny, read his books, blah, 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 blah. And so I think even somebody like that who thought the same thing, like there's no other markets or any other way to do door to door anymore. It's kind of a dying or dead industry. I'm okay if people think that, but at the end of the day, those of us that are involved in direct selling, door to door selling, there's still a lot of green field out there to just go crush it.
Why don't most people do it?
I think there's a lot of uncertainty of how not only to recruit and hire, but actually how to train and manage reps. Everybody's heard the horror stories in whatever industry you're in. Door to door is no exception. So you heard the horror stories. Well, we hired a team, or we subbed a team out. We submarketed a team from another company, and they came out and they put on trash accounts, and the reps weren't trained well. They got a lot of negative reviews for our company because they were unethical, and they weren't saying good things on the doors to people. And there is still that out there. You do have to be careful. But for me, and my expertise is I teach people how to go recruit. Like, Jonas, you and I talked, right? Like, that was our discussion, is here's the formula for recruiting. I would highly recommend getting your own recruits rather than hiring those out, because the pricing right now for hiring out a marketing team is absolutely astronomical and ridiculous. Not only that, but then the quality is going to suffer. You don't know these reps, you don't have a relationship with them, and you're paying out the nose for them. And then the retention on the accounts they give you normally sucks, to be frank about it. So to me, it's if you can learn how to do it yourself, you manage expectations, you have realistic expectations. And then the most important part is you got to get them trained right, because nobody wants to do door to door unless there's an opportunity to make good money while you do it, because it's not just something that's fun, that's, just mindless, that you can just go do and you get paid for. And so you have to have the right training program to breed success, because if sales reps are knocking doors and having success, they're going to stick around. So it's not dead, but there's a formula with it that a lot of people don't know or are just unfamiliar with. And that's really the goal of me and my company, Door to Door Millionaire, D2D Millionaire. That's what we do, is we really educate and teach business owners if door to door is an option for them, and if it is, how to go about and do it.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned a couple of things, but why does it get such a bad name? Like, you always just hear the horror stories. You don't ever hear anything good about it. You just hear all the bad reviews, all the bad raps.
Yeah, and it's because there are, and again, it's no different than I would think any other industry, right? You have industries that have bad reps, that have bad reputations, and I don't think door to door is any exception. I do think there are a lot of I'd say greedy people in the industry. There's a lot of people that are unethical in the industry, because anything that can create and generate a lot of revenue and pay somebody really well, there's going to be people that come after that in a way that is just not the right way to go about doing it. That was really one of the reasons for me writing my books, is I wanted to write books that showed exactly and told the story of exactly how I approach people, what I say. I can sleep well at night knowing I'm doing it, above board. I'm not saying anything to lie, cheat, and steal people, but there are still those reps that do it. And I think as a society, we're getting closer together, right? Like, we're more tight knit. Like, now we have neighborhood groups that can, in an instant, take a picture of somebody from a doorbell cam, and they can take that picture and send it to their whole neighborhood group and say, hey, this guy's going to come knocking on your door. He lied to me, and don't give him the time of day. And so now you've got this closer knit society. And now these negative stories are being shared, where I would hope, and I think this is fair to say, the majority of reps going door to door are good, upstanding people. But you don't hear about that, right? It's like, for those of you that follow sports, like, you don't know a referee's name until the referee really messes up, and then you know the ref. And you should never know a referee's name, right? If you know their name, they've really messed up a call, or they're gambling on sports or whatever it is. But the really good ones just go about their job, and nobody really says much or thinks much about them. And that's similar to door to door in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. But then, what are some of the upsides?
So door-to-door sales, again, it really breaks open a market for business owners that is untapped to a certain degree, right? If all of us are beating the drum of traditional marketing measures, TV, radio, billboard, all of those things, and we're going after SEO, we're online, we're doing all that, everybody else is doing that as well. So now we're getting customer bases, and we're fighting for those customers with everybody else. Whereas direct marketing, you're showing up on somebody's doorstep, and even though it's getting more crowded, that space, there's still so many homeowners, there's still so many people to go after. So that's a benefit, is it's different. We're not after maybe the same demographic of client. I think the other thing is just, especially in the home service industry, you're talking about route density. That's a huge part of it as well. You could get 5 different calls one morning for a an online campaign, and they're in 5 different cities, all over, spread out throughout the metro, wherever you are. Whereas door to door, you could go out for a few hours, get 5 sales, and they're within a block of each other. And so there's some efficiencies there that door to door brings that other types of marketing just aren't as efficient to save on a lot of expenses and just make the company run a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can't count how many neighborhoods we have where we just go park the truck all day long and don't move.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit.
Talk about wear and tear on the vehicle and fuel expenses and all those things. Yeah, it's night and day difference besides a technician just windshield time and driving all over the place and burning fuel and time and resources and going to do one service, then off to the next one, in an hour or two.
Agree with you. So you look, we're all on these Facebook pages, pest control company, with all the pest control owner operators, technicians. Why do they hate the door-to-door guys?
Well, if they're good at switching over their accounts, that's one reason, right? I think what it's done, though, and we're going to just take the segment of liars, cheaters, out of the equation. Like those ones are hard. My company gets bombarded by some of those as well. And so, things are fabricated about my company. I mean, once we had a sales rep from a competing company that was going around to our customers saying, oh yeah, they sold their company to us, so I just need you to sign here to give us, verification that we can go service your home under the new name of the company. We didn't sell our company in that market, so again, take that segment out, the liars, the cheaters, the thieves of the world. And I think you have a better opportunity with those that are on the up and up, that if they're doing it the right way, it really increases the standards of a company. Like a company can't just be okay. Now a service company has to be really good to protect their client base, to provide a quality service for a good price. And if you're doing that, again, even if you're more expensive, if you're providing a quality service, people won't switch. If they're loyal to you, your technician, you've done a really good job of building a reputation and value with each and every customer. I do think that the door-to-door game has helped lift the rising tides lift all ship mentality, right? It lifts everybody to become a better pest control provider or a lawn care provider or, whatever else is being directly marketed. So I think that aspect of it too is sometimes goes unnoticed.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you 100% on all that. So the people that are in those groups that just frown upon it is because, they're getting their accounts switched over because maybe they don't do such a great job, or their prices just aren't quite right, or their billing wasn't quite right, and they'll just switch to your company because of those reasons alone.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it depends on where it's at. If I'm going to if I'm building a relationship with a client, or I meet somebody and they're like, hey, I've been with my company for 10 years, and Joey, our technician, he's the best technician ever. And Nancy, she answers phones. And anytime I have a question, I can call Nancy up and she's just incredible. I'm not going to switch that account over.
Agreed.
And I can say it's for free. I can say I'm doing it for free. And they'd say, take a hike, because I'm totally happy with who I have and who I built this relationship with. So I think if you're really good at taking care of your customers, it makes it really difficult for people to want to switch over. I mean, most of the switchovers, at least how I trained to do it, and my guys, and even my experience switching over, it wasn't because of price. I mean, pricing is a very even if you look at why people make certain buying decisions, price is up there, but it's top 5. It's not like the top 1. So if they feel like they're getting taken care of, their relationship with the people in the company, that just makes the switchover darn near impossible.
And when you guys are looking for switchovers, and you have local competitors in your market, just the smaller mom and pop shops, which are the toughest ones to switch to begin with, because they have that smaller company feel, they build rapport. Do you guys try to switch those still, or do you guys just move on to the next and go after the bigger companies?
Yeah, the way I train it is obviously we want to find out if people are getting taken care of. So
Yep.
so it can be some pretty basic questions. Like we're asking a lot of good find out questions for people to know, hey, how long you been with your company? What do you think so far? What did you sign up for? What are they taking care of for you? What does their scope of service include? Like to me, it's more like let me find out about it before I just tell you, hey, the company you use is horrible. We're going to do it for cheaper and we're going to do more service. Like that's a very elementary way to go about it, and that's unfortunate. There's still reps that go out and try to preach that, where we're just going to beat them on price and tell them we do more service, so we're going to get them that way. It's not so much about that. Let me find out about the experience. Like my reps are trained to find out the experience that they're having, and if they love their company, and it's almost like the questions that I ask. If somebody really loves their company, it just kind of it just solidifies that for people. It's like, oh yeah, no, my company's great. They let me know before they come out. They come out, they do a good service. They'll come back if I need them. I can call the office anytime. They'll respond to my emails. If they've got that kind of backing, yeah, it kind of, to me, it's like, okay, well, if they're happy with the service, fantastic. If your company isn't going to treat you well in the future, or you feel like you're getting less of a service, hit us up, let us know later. But yeah, switchovers become really hard if a company's being taken care of, whether they're a larger company or they're more of the mom and pop company. It doesn't matter. If a company's taking care of their people, they're equally as difficult to switch.
Do you think they're easier to switch from a mom and pop shop from a door-to-door company, or from a like a big franchise company?
I don't think it matters. I think it depends on their technicians. What kind of service, not just service are they getting and the effectiveness of the service, but what kind of customer service are they getting? That's what we at my pest control company, that's what we try to do. We try to provide a fantastic service, a wonderful customer service experience, kind of the whole thing. If a company's figure out how to do that, it doesn't matter if they're doing it on a large scale or a small scale. I don't think it matters. They could be as difficult or as easy to switch over based just on those two things.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But in a lot of your markets, let's just say, they'll have a lot of do-it-yourselfers. You run into those guys. Like most people you talk to just do it themselves. And for the listeners, what do you talk? How do you handle those smoke screens or objections?
Yeah, no, and here's what most reps do that is the wrong way to go about switchovers, or excuse me, do-it-yourselfers, DIYers. Most reps come in there, and it's, hey, we take care of that stuff. I do it myself. And how they come back to that is they're like, oh, well, your time is too much value in your time. Why you shouldn't be spending time going out and doing pest control or doing your own lawn care. Let's hire a company that now you have time with your kids and you can do. Well, what they fail to realize is that sometimes people actually enjoy doing it, and it's a hobby for them, right? Like, I enjoy getting out in my yard. I enjoy shoveling snow when it snows. I enjoy mowing my lawn. Those are things just that I like to get out in my yard and do. So if somebody came to me and said they were going to take away something I enjoy doing, that's not setting up a really good, playing field to try to, play ball with somebody. So I try to take that DIYer and say, let me supplement or let me complement what you're doing by doing X, Y, and Z. You keep doing what you're doing. You love to do it, and I'm not taking away your hobby, but I'm going to supplement by maybe doing some different techniques or using some different products or some things that maybe I can do that they can't necessarily do. That's the approach I'm going to use with a DIYer. I'm not going to come in and saying, hey, take off the overalls. I'm your guy now. You don't have to worry about it anymore, because quite frankly, they might enjoy doing it.
Yeah, I like that. And that's why we would teach our guys too. We must learn from someone good, I guess. When you start in a door-to-door team in your certain locations, is there a market penetration that you're going after when you first start up, that you say, hey, I know I can get to this revenue in this area, and then I'm going to pull my guys out and just work on retention? Or how do you guys handle that in your company?
So if we're going into a market, we have a very holistic approach. We don't just go in guns blazing with 20, 30, 40 door-to-door reps like some companies do. We want it to be a mix. That's the secret formula. And for those that are in the door-to-door game, I will speak to them, and those that are curious about door-to-door, I'll speak to them as well, because I think there's different ways to look at this depending on what angle you're coming at it from. But I think the door-to-door teams specifically that go in that just try to blast as many reps, get as many door-to-door accounts as possible. Typically what's going to happen is they're going to come in and they're going to dominate the door-to-door space, but maybe their retention numbers aren't great because they're putting on too many accounts. And so it's kind of like the branches are outweighing the roots, so to speak. And so they're just going to have to repeat that over and over again to try to replace all those accounts that they lost, after that first year of the service agreement, or quite frankly, even before the first year's up. If people just feel like they've got a crappy service, and if you're putting too many accounts on too fast, I mean, how good can your service be as well? What's the quality of service? The quality of service is going to suffer. That's not going to help with retention as well. So you're going to see those attrition numbers too high, and then it's almost like it's like a drug where they just got to keep doing it, and they think they can get the same thing, but really they're just spinning their wheels in the mud, a lot of times, I will say. So, but for us, when we go into a market, yes, we will have a certain percentage when we first go there that we feel like we're going to have our door-to-door teams accomplish. That might be half, that might be 75%, might be 25%. It just depends. The other things we're going to look at is acquisition. Are there companies for sale in that market? We're going to look at, again, what we talked about before, just the traditional marketing methods. We're going to do TV, radio, SEO. We're going to kind of blast all those. And we want to, again, create this holistic approach where we want to grow with a bunch of different opportunities, because, it's like the legs on the chair, theory, right? If you just have one leg on a chair, it's not going to balance very well. But if you are growing in multiple ways, one thing can get taken away and you can still be, you still have some stability. Now, if I'm a company that's been in a market and I've been there for 20 years and everybody's come in and done door to door and I'm getting pissed off and I want to do door to door, I think that's a great opportunity to, again, start small, hire 2 to 5 sales reps, get into your market and go fill up some of those spaces where you've got, route deficiencies, we'll call it, right? Where you need the growth. Well, send your door-to-door teams to those places and try to build up those efficiencies. And you can start, even though maybe you didn't start that way with your growth, but you can get going 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it doesn't matter, down the road, you can insert door to door, and it can really help clean up some of your routing and maybe other inefficiencies that you have within the organization.
Yeah, and you brought up attrition, and a lot of people might not know what that is. So can you kind of touch on that and what a good percentage is for maybe like a warm?
Are you talking,
like maybe for? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, are you talking specifically for door to door?
Yeah, let's just talk door to door. And if you want to use pest or lawn as the example, that's fine. And then, from one market, maybe a traditional versus non-traditional market, and where you can see the retention difference.
Yeah. And as far as that goes, attrition is basically just what accounts you're losing, right? You have attrition on one side and then retention on the other. What accounts are you keeping? We obviously want to retain all the accounts. That would be ideal. For me, the way we train our reps and how we kind of hold the customer's hand and try to build that relationship with them, our retention, even for our door-to-door teams, is well over 80%. If not, we've had some years where we've been in the 90 percentile post 1 year. So after the 1 year's up, we're going to retain the good majority. Now, I've heard horror stories of companies that are under 50%, even 25, 30%, where they're losing the good majority of the door-to-door accounts that they sign up. So, and again, I think there's a lot that goes into that. How were the reps trained? Number one, were they trained in a manner that's going to lead to long-term relationships with people, or are they just selling 1-year service agreements? Because if they're just selling 1-year service agreements, you're probably going to get that customer for a year, because in direct sales, you're talking somebody into something they may not have thought about before. You might be knocking on a door, somebody, the last thing on their mind is a pest control service. Well, you're talking them into the idea of it. And so it sounds good, but if it's just, hey, just try us for a year and then you don't have to worry about it, or you're not going to see any bugs again. If you get reps talking that way, then yeah, your attrition is going to be horrible. So the better you can obviously keep those numbers, the more value there is in a door-to-door team. But if you're retaining 25% of accounts, you're paying out the nose for those, and that's just not worth it. The economics don't make sense in that regard. So for us, we want to be in the 80+ percentile as far as retention of our new accounts from door to door. and maybe a little bit higher on SEO and other marketing, because quite frankly those people probably need it. That's why they're calling, that's why they're emailing, and that's why they're responding to different ads, because there's a need there. It's a lot easier to retain somebody that has a need for something than it is where you're creating that need. You again, that's when the relationship and building that quality service and quality customer service comes into play.
Yeah. And then when you compare like a traditional market, like let's say of Texas or Florida versus a non-traditional market, let's say Wisconsin, Iowa, do you see a difference in retention there?
So not really. Yeah. And we've had both, right? We've had the traditional markets. We've had companies, currently we have a company in Arizona, but we've been in Arkansas and Tennessee and kind of some of those southern markets. I mean, I sold in Florida and Southern Virginia and Alabama, and we've been in Oklahoma, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. But then we've also had the markets up in Madison. We've had we're headquartered in the Twin Cities. We're in Boston. We're in Detroit. We're kind of all over in some of those non-traditional markets. I don't think the retention numbers need to be any different. I think it boils down to the relationship and the quality of the service and the quality of the customer service that you're providing for your people. I can't hit on that enough. If you're doing those things, and I don't even care if you're up in Canada. I have some clients of mine that are up in Canada. If they're doing the same things, and it's brutal winters or not really year-round need for pest control, so to speak, or different pests, at different times of the year, whether you're talking rodents and those types of things, I think you can have the same retention expectations in a non-traditional that you can have in a traditional. We do.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think to myself, selling down in Florida, every door that you talk to, someone has pest control. You get back up into here, like you market like Minnesota or Twin Cities, like that. Not every single person is going to have pest control. Maybe 3 out of the 10, compared to 9 out of the 10 down in Florida. So you're going to run into a lot of people who don't have pest control on their mind and never would here as compared to down there.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. When I coach, my clients and my companies that I have relationships with, it's like, yeah, if you're in a traditional market, the main concern is going to be we already have a service, so you better be good at that. If you're in a non-traditional, the main concern is we don't need it. We don't have bugs, right? And so you better be good at handling that objection. So that's the secret, and where the fine line is, where's the longitude, the latitude, whatever it is, where's that perfect line where there's a need and nobody's there? That doesn't exist. I will just tell you that's imaginary land. So it's always going to be one of the two, if not both of them, in regardless of what market. We don't need it or we already have it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to switch over to like recruiting, because we were kind of talking about that before. And he said, if you're just getting into door-to-door space, go hire, 2 to 3 guys. My philosophy is never hire 1, always hire 2. I don't know if you can agree with me or not, to push them against each other a little bit, create a little bit of a competition. And if you were to go hire your first sales guy, where would you go first? And then what would your onboarding process look like?
Yeah. And I think it's important, even to what you said about don't hire 1, hire 2. I would say don't hire 1 or 2, but hire 4 so you can keep 2, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most of the door-to-door, the people willing to do that are probably a little younger, maybe they're 18, 19, in their 20s. They can be a little fickle as far as, keeping their commitments to certain things. So it's always better to have friends do it as well, because it does give some I think that's what you were alluding to, Jonas, is there's a little bit more competition there, right? Like you want them to see success and go, oh man, she went out and sold 6 today. Why am I only getting 1? Or man, I've been blank 3 days in a row and she's out there selling 2 a day, nonstop. So you always want to have people push people and see some success, because success breeds success, as we know. So that's important. But I do think there's, when we talk about attrition, it's not just in accounts, it's also in reps. So if I'm going to go where these people are looking for work, because at least in the pest control and lawn care industries, you get a lot of people that those busy seasons are going to be the warmer months, and so now you can coordinate that with school schedules. And so you think, okay, well, maybe we could have some really ambitious go-getter types that are in high school. Maybe they're seniors, are going into their senior year. Maybe they're in college, they're in their college years. Or maybe they're teachers, for crying out loud. Because guess what? Teachers have the summers off too, and they should be decent communicators. So you can look at a pool of what you're looking for, and that's really where you set up shop, where it's at a local university or it's at a job fair or anything that again would lead me to somebody that would fit the demographic and fit the mold of having some extra time in the summer. But then, of course, then you're looking for the right type of personality. You want somebody that's not going to, get told no, or maybe get told off by somebody that their mom's ugly, or I don't know, whatever people say that's horrible and horrendous on the doors. You hear it all. You don't want somebody to curl up in the fetal position and call it good after one rejection. So if you find the type of person who's tough, mentally, most importantly, is just the mentally tough type of people that rejection is not going to bother them, and they're good at communication skills. They have good communication skills. A lot of that can be taught, but if they're just naturally good at communication skills, they're mentally tough, they're committed. Those type of people are the type of people that generally succeed on the doors.
Yep. Would you rather have a new rep that's never done anything before, or one that's been trained already that you brought from another company?
Well, that just depends. I wouldn't have a preference. I'd look at both of them, and how I think what you're getting at is how teachable would somebody coming from another company be? Because and what was their experience in another company? I'd say, why are they leaving another company? Are they leaving? Are they choosing to leave, or is the company they work for choosing to let them go? That would create some red flags for me if they were, if the choice was the company, they didn't want them back. I don't know how excited I'd be about that rep, but I don't know. I'd want to find out the whole story. I'd probably do a little bit of, research and contact the other company and find out, let's hear the story from them and that rep, because both of them are going to tell two different stories, and the truth's always in the middle. So we'd find out what happened on that one. And then the new one, like I said, the new one, you're going to roll the dice a little bit more. If somebody hasn't knocked doors, there's certainly no guarantees that, again, after a couple hours of hearing no's, they don't just pack up and head out. So, I don't know. It as with most questions or answers to questions, right, Jonas? It depends. I guess would be the best way.
And the reason that I ask is I have a lot of friends that'll just call me like, "Hey, I just had this sales rep stop by. He said he's looking for a job." I'm like, red flag. Instantly red flag. There's a reason. If they're a good sales rep, they're usually not on the market long and not looking for a job because they're getting recruited like crazy by someone else.
Yeah. No, you do have to look into each case. There's a lot of variables that come into play there for sure.
So, and we don't have to mention any names here, but you probably see all the stuff going on online recently in the past few months with back-end checks and things like that. So there are some of those reps who are going to be moving around. What's your thoughts on all of what's going on in the industry? Like, there's a lot of changes happening. Like, people are leaving solar. They're getting a bad taste out of pest control. They're moving from industry to industry, like you said, trying new things. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I will say, me having done this for 25 years, nothing's changed. Maybe the amount of people has changed that are being affected by their back end or changing industries. Maybe that's changed because there's a lot more people that are in door-to-door and direct sales now than there used to be. The other part of that is again, we're a closer society because everything can be posted on somebody's social media. And so the word gets out a little bit more than maybe what it used to, but really nothing's changed, Jonas. It's the same in the 90s, in the early 2000s, in the 20 teens, and now in the 2020, it's always the same stuff. I didn't get paid my back end. I was over promised, under delivered on this, that, and the other. I mean, because most of the time, I think what happens is you get these younger crowds that these recruiters are really good. Let me just say that they are so good that they know exactly what a 20-year-old wants to hear, a 25-year-old wants to hear, and they will promise it up and down because they're getting paid off, overrides off whoever they recruit, that goes in sales. They couldn't care less though if you get a back end or not, because they've already been paid out more than likely. So I think you have to be really careful with if it seems too good to be true. If you're just hearing all the great and good stuff about it, you're getting overpromised. I guarantee it. Because when we're recruiting our people, we try to paint a very realistic picture. This is very difficult. You may want to quit. you may not get paid your back end because of this, and this happens, right? You don't fulfill your commitment if you quit early, if you've got to kind of set the table. Most recruiters aren't going to do that. They're just going to sell the stories of everything's glorious and great. You're going to have so much fun, and we're going to go to the skateboard park every morning, and we're this company that I think at the end of the day, all this is just rinse and repeat. It's just, I once heard, and I won't say the company that I heard it from, but I once heard that, kind of, and we can get into the this is probably a good topic to discuss as well, is what kind of person are you looking for? Maybe if you don't have people that have knocked doors for church missions or that, because some people believe that that's the only way. If you don't have a connection with church missionaries, you can't do door to door, and that's completely false. And we can go off on that path.
Sure.
But I once heard a company basically say, listen, you're going to get new suckers that come in every day from every year from the mission that you're going to be able to talk back into, regardless of what the guys the previous year, what their experience was.
Unreal.
And that's just trash. But I've heard that before. And I know that's the mentality of some of these companies that go out and recruit everybody and just are looking for numbers. Because they just think, hey, new suckers are rolling in next year. And so we'll just do it all over again.
Yeah. So let's go down that path. Like, what are you looking for? Like, again, I'm going to push back a little bit because we're the same way. Like, we don't have anyone around here that's ever even knocked doors. So you say, you guys do what? Like, you guys knock doors? Like, that's a real thing? That's what we run into around here. You go to Utah, everyone already knows that they're going to have to leave for the summer, whether it's in their missionary or they're going to knock doors afterwards. So they're used to that. And here we don't have that at all. So I agree with you. You don't have to have those missionary guys to go knock doors, because we've never had one that's ever had previous experience.
Yeah. We had a group once out of Michigan, at a university out of Michigan, that we recruited in, and we had them, and then we had like 3 or 4 other teams that were kind of more your traditional kids from Utah that go out to whatever place. Well, these guys were all from Michigan. None of them done church missions. None of them really had much sales experience, and they were our top office. And to me, it boils down to the training they got. They did the training. Just like we taught, we didn't vary our training, but they just took it to heart more. They internalized it. Maybe they worked a little harder, all those things where they were our top office, not a single missionary. So I just look at it and go, if you have somebody, like I said before, who's mentally tough, who's committed, who's not afraid to work hard, if you have those 3 elements, then you're going to find somebody that can be successful at this.
Yeah. So for a lot of people that are listening that don't do residential, that do more B2B, could you build a team? And I know you already do, but would you build a team if you're going to do B2B or business sales? Would it be the same?
No,
would it see the same profile, the same hours, or what does that look like?
Not really, because you're looking for a group that is, maybe your commercial sales team, and we have a full-time, commercial sales team. Your commercial sales team is going to be year round. So now you look at it more of the marathon versus the sprint. Like the summer sales, the college kids, that's a sprint. We are trying to go as, 6 days a week, 7 hours a day, 50 people a day, talk to, trying to close out 1 to 2 plus sales a day on the doors. It is a full-on sprint. We're going as fast as we can. Whereas now when you're talking about a year-round, a commercial team going business to business, the sales techniques can be very similar. But you're also talking about a group of people that are going to be compensated differently. They're certainly not just paid on commissions. There's some guarantees there. They're looking for more long-term, a business to business sale sometimes doesn't happen in 10 to 15 minutes, like a door-to-door sell, might happen in. So, getting in front of the decision makers, cutting through the red tape of, gatekeepers and this, that, and the other. There's just there's a different way and different expectations, different compensation. There's different ways to do it, but certainly building a commercial, a B2B team, that's all conceptually what you say and how you say it is all very, very similar.
Which one do you like better? Or is it a mixture of both?
Yeah, I mean, I interact, every week with my commercial team and I love it. And then the door-to-door team will start and I'll interact with them every week as well. And I enjoy that too. So I don't know. I've been doing this long enough where I don't have just one like favorite thing that I like to do. personally, I just like to help people to learn the language of sales and direct sales. Like that's what I enjoy the most. Like I love seeing people succeed. And that's why my consulting company, that's why we'll teach exactly what I teach my people. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like I love people to succeed the right way and to do it ethically and to do it honestly and all those things. If people can succeed like that, then to me, that's a win for the industry as a whole. And again, I've been doing this long enough to where, I don't have to sell anymore. I wouldn't have to sell an account the rest of my life. It wouldn't matter. I don't have to teach anybody, but I really enjoy that part. That's what my passion is teaching how I do what I do. Cause I was just some regular kid, nothing was given to me. I had to kind of go work for what I worked for. And I just feel like I can teach how I do what I do to darn near anybody who's willing. So,
and I can attest to that. So thank you for everything that you do for us too. Where do most sales forces fail?
I think the biggest points of failure are leadership. I don't think they're led by the right person, or by anybody at all. I guess one thing you can't do if you're not willing to step in a leadership role to guide, your 3 to 5 sales reps your first year. If you're not going to be there to be a leader, you better have a leader there, because this direct selling game is tough, and you need that. Like I said, this sprint mentality. I mean, we're having daily training meetings every single day, Monday through Saturday. We are training these reps on different things that they're hearing and keeping just their motivation up and trying to instill, passion about what they're doing. And it's tough to do. So yeah, I think that aspect of it, you definitely need to continually motivate and bring guys up. And if you don't have the right leader that does that, you're going to fail miserably. The other thing is just, I just see, so when I first started, my first experience with training was I was given a training manual that was maybe 15 to 20 pages long. And it was like, okay, this is what you need to know, everything you need to know about knocking doors. And I had that thing memorized in a couple of weeks. I'd take it on the doors with me. I just flip through the pages as I'm in between doors knocking, and I digested that thing and was like, wow. And then I was told I was going to have some VP of sales come knock doors with me at some point. And I waited and waited and waited. And now we're into July. I've been knocking all of May, all of June. I haven't seen a single person from corporate even come and try to help me. I'm out selling my managers. I was like, I don't even know if I'm doing great, if I could do better. And I remember the guy finally came, the VP of sales finally came out in July, and we were going to go knock doors. And I was so excited to watch him. And we got out to the parking lot, and he had his video camera, because it was in the 90s. He didn't have his phone. We didn't have those cell phones back then, but he had a video camera. And he said, okay, actually, I don't have time. I got to go catch a flight. So I just want to record you. Like, what would you say if someone answered the door? And I'm like, man, I thought you were supposed to be training me, not the reverse. And I just felt like there was just so little information out there. Nowadays, that's not an issue at all. Like there's so much information, not just my books. I mean, I've got a lot on my website. You go to lennygray.com, and I got a blog that I've been running for over a decade now of just valuable information. I got a newsletter that I put out regularly to people that subscribe to my newsletter. I've got a YouTube channel, a D2D Millionaire YouTube channel with hundreds of videos. So it's like, there's so much information now. You really have to fail at whether you want to educate yourself or have a company train you, your company train you, they would really have to fail not to give you so much information.
Yeah, that's great information, because go back to like day one when we started knocking doors. I didn't have anyone leading me. I just, again, watched so many videos, read so many books, everything that I could consume, and went out there and started figuring it out myself. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm getting pretty good at this. Now I can just start training my guys. And that's just, but I was with them the first year, every day, 6 days a week, all summer long. And now I have those guys to go out there and run teams for me, which is pretty awesome. So I agree with that. It's really cool. And obviously your training is really good, so that helped us as well along the way. You've trained, you've had many trainings with my guys in the mornings too. From hotel rooms to Airbnbs, we've had many of them. I have a question for you. That's my personal question. In your experience in business, what were some of your biggest failures, like that you learned quick from?
Yeah, and I love it. Like it's all about failing forward, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't fail, or if you're afraid of failure, you'll never get to the heights that you should get to. So I don't fear failing at all. And I've certainly had my share of failing, right? So I mean, just when I think about my knocking experience, and then we'll get into more of my, running a business experiences. But when I think about my knocking experiences, like, shoot, I had my third year knocking. I was in Jacksonville, Florida, my third year. So I had sold about 500 my first year, about 600 new accounts my second year. And my third year, I sold about 700 accounts. And just as a side note, I ended up the summer like selling, I want to say 684 accounts. And I got paid for like 672 of them.
It's amazing.
Just to give you an idea of my retention. Like I was serious when I say I'm selling for the long term. Like I wasn't just selling things just to put numbers up. Like I was selling things. And I always say the only way somebody's going to cancel from an account that I sell is that they're either going to move, lose their job, or die. That's it. Like one of those three has to happen, or they're going to stick on, with the service. So, but I remember distinctly, I had 4 days that summer, one in May, one in June, one July, and one August, where I got zero sales. Like legit sold almost 700 accounts, and I had 4 days of zero. And that to me was like, that was a gut check. Like, am I really good at this? Do I really know what to do? Yeah, I know I sold 12 the day before, but I got zero today. And that's the mental toughness part of door to door to me is sales are all over the place. Everybody would love to say, I can just sell 5 a day. If I could just sell 5 a day every day, I'd be happy. Well, that doesn't exist either. Like in sales, you just never know. Some days you're going to have zero. Some days you'll maybe just have one. Some days you might sell 23. I don't know, whatever it is, right? So it's all over the board. So I think failure on the doors, it can be door to door, it can be day to day. But I love the idea of just failing and learning from your failures, and then seeing things that you learn and don't make that same mistake again and grow from. From a business standpoint, man, I've definitely we've hired the wrong people in the wrong positions, like everybody else. We've probably gone into markets we would, if we could do it over again, we wouldn't do it. There's a lot of business failures that I've had. Shoot, I invested a lot of money and found out it was in a Ponzi scheme. I lost a lot of money. Like I failed there. But anything that I fail from, like I said, I don't look at it as a failure, but I look at it as a learning experience. And I try not to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. That's even as a parent, as a husband, right? Like I'm trying to be better and improve all aspects of my life. And so failing isn't necessarily a bad thing. If I repeatedly fail at the same thing, then I'd start to question if I'm really understanding what I'm failing, the reasons I'm failing, and what I'm learning or not learning from those failures.
Is there anything that in business you failed from that we could learn from, and the listeners could learn from?
Wow, that's a loaded question. We could go down a lot of paths there. Of course, like any failure, I think there's lessons to be learned, like anything that you fail at, like if you realize that, maybe you have a new incentive program for your inbound team or whatever, and you realize that it's not really motivating, and you could look at it, well, that was a failure. It doesn't mean you stop trying to motivate your inbound team. You don't stop incentivizing your inbound team. You just find a different way to go about it, to try it again. It doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just, maybe you just didn't have the right formula, right? It's like cooking. I don't even cook, but it's like cooking. You got these recipes, and how many times do people try a recipe till they hit that one that just, it's perfect. This is the formula. This is the recipe that actually works, that people love the most. Sometimes it's just a matter of adding some ingredients, taking some away, adding a little more, a little less of something, and just finding that perfect formula, that perfect recipe.
I like that. What is the difference between a 5-day rep, 2-day rep, 2 to 5 day rep, and then the 15 to 20 plus a day rep? What's the difference? Is it just work ethic?
No. I think there's got to be. This is what I think. The secret to me is reps that can read nonverbals and reps that know how to qualify, so they don't talk to people that are what I would call mission impossible. Yep. Like sometimes reps just go on and on with somebody, and they have not earned their time. Like I teach qualifying principles, and I teach nonverbal and reading those things that may be buying signs or not buying signs. And it's like, I just know, like I get on the doors with my reps, and I'm still very active on the doors, and I can get on the doors with my reps, and I get, turned down and whatever, and we're walking, and they kind of get this look like, oh my gosh, somebody told you no. Can you believe that? Like, you got told no. And I'm like, I've been told no more than anybody. I don't care to be told no. My secret is once I get somebody qualified or on the hook, so to speak, I'm going to close those accounts more than anybody else, because I know once I qualify somebody, I'm talking to the right person that's sellable. Now I've got a better chance than most people at selling that person. I don't sell the unsellable. I'm not Houdini. I'm not the magic, the magician here. I don't do that. But what I do is I sell people I can get on the hook and qualify.
So you think it's just qualifying as fast as you possibly can, closing those accounts and getting on to the next account?
It doesn't have to be fast. It just has to be right. Right. You just have to do it the right way. Because again, and that's not just selling laydowns either. That's the other part of this is people think, well, you just sell the laydowns. Well, if you were just selling the easy, there's only so many laydowns. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, yeah, I sell laydowns like anybody else would, but I'm not just selling those, because if you were just selling those, you're only going to sell so many a day.
I agree with that. I know we're running out of time here. I don't know how long you can stay with me, but usually about an hour. But I have a question for you, because you have a lot going on. Like, from the consulting side and from your own companies. You've been working on some really cool projects you probably can't talk a whole lot about, but what is Lenny up to these days?
Yeah, no, I'm an open book, man. I didn't sign any non-competes that says I can't talk about anything that I'm doing. Okay, so cool. I'll just tell you. So yeah, so I have my own pest control companies, of course. We've been in business. This is our 20-year anniversary. We took a bunch of our guys off to a little island off of Fiji and went and enjoyed a week and a half of just sun and sunburns and sharks and all sorts of hikes and just a good time with our executive team. We kind of celebrated our 20-year anniversary. So definitely still rocking and rolling. Thank you. It's a big deal for us, be in the pest business for 20 years. It's quite the accomplishment, and we appreciate being in this industry. It's taken really good care of us. But other than that, some of my clientele, like I do, 2-day training conferences with teams. I've got some set up for a team in Florida. I've got one in North Carolina. I've got one back on the West Coast in Northern California that I'm doing. So I do training conferences for teams all the time. It's pretty much, like I say, it's like everything that I've learned that's taken me 25 years to learn, I basically give in 2 or 3 days, to people that have those willing. I will make them able in 2 or 3 days to go out and kill it. So I do a lot of that, especially this time of year as we're ramping up for, summer sales season. I've got another relationship, in the home service industry, in the garage door industry, where we're still hiring for. Jonas, you know about this. My friend Tommy Mello there at A1 Garage Door. I think they're in 20 states now. They're headquartered in Phoenix. And we've got a sticker program for really, people that maybe the door-to-door selling thing doesn't resonate. Maybe they're not great at it. Well, we've got a kind of a lower tier, you can make just great money as well, but a lower tier where you maybe aren't necessarily going in closing accounts or setting appointments, but you're just marketing for this garage door company. That's taken off. And we just set a record last month for our best month in company history. I've been doing that for 2.5 years. Also working for a company now, or consulting for a company now that's doing the ERC, the employee retention credits. Those things are going away. We were, benefited from that. Our pest control company, I know your pest control company, Jonas, benefited from employee retention credits. Most companies, small to medium-sized companies, can benefit from employee retention credits. The sacrifices that we had to make during the COVID years and the challenges that we faced. I know the Department of Agriculture was shut down. The government shut that down, so you couldn't hire new technicians. So we had one of my, my business partners that moved states. He's from Idaho. He moved to Minnesota and started spraying houses because he was licensed. And all those challenges that companies faced in COVID, we've kind of got a B2B program that we're helping out companies actually get paid. The employee retention credits, or at least going through the application process, seeing if they've earned any of those credits, so they can get paid for those difficulties they had. So those are, I'm not that busy, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, got a lot of extra time. I think I even made one of your Facebook shorts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Remember when you and I were on that same call?
Oh, that's right. With Tommy. Yeah, that's right. I do remember that now. Yeah, no, and I'm fortunate enough to have somebody who manages a lot of my social media stuff. So, he puts stuff out and it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. But anything with D2D Millionaire obviously is my stuff, whether it's Instagram, he's got some Facebook, some Twitter stuff. Obviously my personal stuff is out there. I'm kind of all over the place.
Sure. So if people wanted to come find you to work with you, or even to be a sales rep for maybe the ERC thing or for the Tommy thing, how would they connect with you?
Yeah, probably just best. My website's just Lenny at d2dmillionaire.com. That's an easy way. Like I said, I'm on all the social media platforms. Pretty easy to find. I got a website, lennygray.com. You can go to that and hit me up from there as well. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to reach out. I'm not hiding.
Cool. Well, like I said, just about an hour, so I'll let you get rolling. I know you're super busy, but I appreciate you being here. Had a lot of fun. You and I could probably talk for hours, but like I said, you're busy too, so I don't want to hold you up. But I appreciate you being here, and thanks for your time.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me, Jonas. It's been fun.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the Pest Control Millionaire Podcast. If this was valuable to you, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It really makes a big difference for our growth. And if you do need any help growing your business, go ahead and check out pestcontrolmillionaire.com. We have lots of courses up there, from sales to operations. I have some courses there about producing short form content. Plus, we have a mentorship program where you can get one-on-one business coaching from the Pest Control Millionaire himself. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.